Hi everyone, Heather here with PersephoneReturns.com, and today I am back with your weekly forecast for Monday, February 19th, all the way through to Sunday, February 25th of 2018. And thank you so much for watching this video. This week we have a ton of Pisces and Neptunian energy going on, so it's going to be a very floaty, very dreamy, very romantic, very mystical, magical sort of week. The energy is going to be a lot less difficult than the energy of last week, even though there still will be a lot of that sort of confusing, watery, sort of Neptunian dissolving of boundaries, a lot of escapism and, proneness to wanting to escape from reality throughout this time period as well. For the most part, it is going to be very nice, though. I think that this is going to be a really nice energy for a lot of different people, especially when it comes to our relationships. It's not going to be the best necessarily for making clear, sound decisions, maybe making more intuitive or creative decisions, but in general, it will be a very nice, very mystical, wonderful, connected, spiritually nourishing relationship energy, right, for all of our close relationships. And I'm going to give you a sort of a context for that when we go into the reading and the forecast for each of the signs. But this week in general, so like I said before, lots of Neptune. This weekend right now, we're coming into, Mercury moving into the sign of Pisces. We have the Sun moving into the sign of Pisces. We have Neptune and Mars in a square right now, and that's kind of a difficult energy, but that's going to start to wane. I was concerned last week because I saw, the Mars-Neptune square and the eclipse, and how the degree was the same as the degree, or the opposite of the degree of the eclipse that happened in the summer, and I was concerned, based on the combination of energies that were at play, that we could have some sort of major event in the United States, and I said that, potentially it would be something that would be a false flag event, and lo and behold, unfortunately, that seems to be the case of what happened. Whether or not you think that it's a false flag, there's definitely a lot of speculation, a lot of suspicion, a lot of paranoia surrounding these events. Especially as we're coming into the weekend, it's a lot more confusing the more information that we get about what actually went down. And so I think that, we're going to come back from that pretty quickly. We're going to come back into it. It's still going to be very confusing. Don't get me wrong. We're going to have a lot of confusion about what was going on then and what's going on moving forward. But I do feel like people are going to be reacting and responding much more compassionately as we come into next week, instead of just automatically going into this divisive state that really I feel like is the end goal of, the way that the media sort of utilizes these types of events, whether or not they're orchestrated by, some other force. We're gonna be able to hopefully overcome the divisiveness and feel more compassionate, feel more understanding toward the opposition, toward the other side of the argument. A lot more forgiveness when we have a lot of Pisces energy. Pisces is very forgiving, very loving, very compassionate, and very empathetic. And so, with all this Pisces energy coming in this weekend, people are going to be able to understand the feelings of others, right? And to empathize and to be compassionate and to sort of be more understanding in that way. And we're all going to feel much more connected to one another, and especially in our relationships, because we will have Neptune coming, or Venus coming into a conjunction with Neptune in the sign of Pisces, which can be very beautiful and wonderful for coming back into balance, coming back into equilibrium in a way that's very loving, that's very mystical, that's very magical. This can bring up very fated, sort of strange synchronous energies in relationships. This can bring manifestation energy, right? When we have Neptune in the birth chart, or just anywhere in your chart where it's transiting, it shows us where it sort of dissolves our boundaries, and it makes things confusing, but it also allows us to very easily manifest our desires and manifest what we want in that area, even if it is subconsciously, which it normally is, right? It's normally a subconscious form of sort of visualization, manifestation, bringing in these energies. And we'll get to sort of how that's going to come into play as well. And so it's not a good week for understanding things on a logical, linear, rational basis, but it is going to be a very dreamy, very mystical energy, really good for spiritual exploration, for connecting very deeply in partnership with people, a really good time for creative sorts of work and spiritual I already said spiritual exploration, sorry. don't mean to repeat myself, but this is a very mystical, sort of otherworldly, ethereal sort of energy. So you're going to be able to pick up on the subtleties of the energetics around you a little bit more. And in Pisces season, it's always sort of that dreamy, fantastical time period. And so people are going to be more prone to daydreaming, especially because Mercury is moving into the sign of Pisces and it'll come into conjunction with Neptune next weekend. People are going to be thinking more in visuals and in impressions, and they're not going to be thinking as logically. So, they can make decisions out of a state of confusion or just compassion or just feeling something in a moment. But, and communication can be a little bit more difficult sometimes too under that influence. Mercury doesn't necessarily like to be in Pisces, but, Venus does, because it allows us to see our relationships much more lovingly and to be much more forgiving in our vantage point. And the sort of downfall of that energy is that we are not going to be able to see our relationships quite as clearly because we're seeing them more idealistically. And so, you might meet someone new during this time period, especially if this transit is in your 5th house or in your 7th house. And it might feel just very beautiful. And it might feel like this beautiful escape from reality being with this person. And then later on down the line, when, Venus is no longer in this position with Neptune and in Pisces, you might have a moment of disillusionment, right? Where you realize that this person is not everything that you thought that they were. It's not all that you dreamt it would be. And so you have to sort of deal with that and rectify that situation. And so that is, one of the downfalls. I'm not going to pretend like, Neptune and Pisces energy is easy. It's definitely not. It's one of the hardest energies to deal with in the physical realm because we are physical beings having this physical experience, or spiritual beings, obviously, but we're having this physical experience in this physical reality. And Neptune is the most non-physical transcendent of all of the planets. Pisces, same thing with, the signs. And so we're going to be dealing with a lot of projection, a lot of scapegoating, a lot of people martyring themselves, for others. A lot of loose boundaries and boundary issues can come up this week. And so it's going to be very important to stay grounded, stay clear in your boundaries, stay clear in your intentions, keep your rational thoughts online. Luckily, we do have Saturn coming into a really nice sextile with Mercury at the beginning of this week. So it does keep our rational minds, our logical minds online a little bit more. So it keeps us more practical and more grounded, even throughout all the Neptunian fog that we'll be experiencing. And brain fog is another big thing with Mercury in the sign of Pisces, right? And especially when it comes to conjunction with Neptune, it's very hard to get clarity of thought. And that's okay, because it's time to sort of turn our brains off a little bit and to, be guided more so by other energies, other dimensional energies, our intuition, things that we pick up from beyond the veils, beyond these realms can be accessed and sort of analyzed a little bit more easily right now. And so those are some of the gifts of this energy. And this is really good for creative writing, creative self-expression, creative forms of speech. It really enhances our creativity in a lot of different ways, especially that deeper form of creativity, not necessarily creativity for aesthetic value, but creativity for deep emotional expression. That is one of and also fantasy, right? So if you write, novels or something like fantasy novels, you could do something like that and it would flow and come out of you a lot more easily right now. It's a really good time to go to the movies and see something that's fantastical, where you can really immerse yourself in what you're viewing. Some people might be escaping through drugs, alcohol, psychedelics, things like that. And that might be okay if that's something you can handle. But, sometimes with all this Neptune energy, you can take it too far. So just, err on the side of caution. I don't think that it's a good time to be drinking a lot. I've found, with a lot of Neptune energy like this, when it's really strong, drinking can bring up a lot of problems for people. And so, I would err on the side of caution if you're going to be, using drugs of any kind, but especially, with alcohol, because it is a Neptunian substance. Just be a little careful, because you can take it too far. You can use it as a means of escape even more so than you normally would. And as long as you're using it to enhance your perception and enhance your experience, as opposed to utilizing these things to escape from reality, then, maybe it could be a time to do that. Although that energy's already there. You don't necessarily need that right now, right? So it's much easier to escape. It's much easier to access these other realms. And, so that's kind of going to be the energy of this week. There's nothing super crazy or chaotic. I do like the energy on Tuesday in particular and into Wednesday, because we do have the moon also exalted in the sign of Taurus, right? And so the moon loves to be in Taurus. This is a very grounded energy for our emotions. It's very in tune with Mother Nature, in tune with our surroundings. It's a very beautiful, comfortable, nurturing placement for the moon. It does really, really well there. And what is also going on as the moon transits through Pisces, or sorry, as the moon transits through the sign of Taurus, is that it's actually only making positive aspects to every single planet it touches. And so this is a rare sort of opportunity where we can sort of initiate action. I mentioned last week that, you know, even though we have this new moon that happened last week in Aquarius, it was an eclipse, right? And then we had this really confusing energy around taking action that happens over the weekend, right? With the square from Mars to Neptune. So it's like very confused about what action to take, what to do, how to access our willpower. Not the best time to initiate something because you're not going to see very clearly what the end result is going to be. As we move into the beginning of this week and the moon starts to become visible, right? The moon is waxing. You always want to wait till the moon is waxing to initiate something that's important. And so the moon will be waxing. It'll be in the sign of Taurus in its exaltation, which indicates that, you know, very practical endeavors can be started, things that make things more beautiful, more comfortable, more safe, and more secure. And, you know, things that sort of stand the test of time, right? Because that's Taurus. Taurus is grounded. It's fixed earth. It's like something that's very long lasting and that has true, real, meaningful value where it's going to last. It's not going to be something that's just sort of flimsy that you're doing off the cuff, off the wall, like not really thinking about what your intentions are. This is when you can take very deliberate action, and the actions can benefit you very much so. And the last aspect that the moon makes before it moves into the sign of Gemini is going to be in opposition to Jupiter, which this is good and bad, right? So don't get your hopes up too high for whatever it is that you're doing, because that can be your downfall. Going a little bit too over the top, a little bit overkill, being overly optimistic when it comes to your endeavors, and that's going to be the case anyway, because you're going to have all this Neptune energy, so you're going to see everything in this idealistic sort of way, and again, that can lead to disappointment later on. So just make sure that, you know, you're seeing things clearly and you're not making it a little bit overkill. But I really like the energy Tuesday and Wednesday for like getting things started, you know, taking new action. It's like things can just flow really easily. And then on Wednesday, we have that Venus conjunction to Neptune, which we will talk about. And that's going to be sort of the hallmark of this little reading here. All right. So, of course, as always, I have my poorly drawn chart wheel here. And if you do want to book a one-on-one reading with me, you can absolutely always do that. The link to do that is in the description of this video below. I love hearing from you guys. I love, you know, doing readings for you all. So, you know, be sure to check that out if you're interested. And so I'm going to be going through Aries through Pisces, all of the signs, just a brief overview of the energy for this week for you guys. And, you know, hopefully there'll be some timestamps somewhere in the comments. If there's not, then, you know, I'll put them in there sometime soon, so just check back. Or maybe someone else will do that, because sometimes they do and I really enjoy when they do. So thank you guys for always putting the timestamps there for me. It saves me a lot of work. All right, so without further explanation, let me just rearrange here. So there's going to be a lot of Pisces energy. There's a stellium in Pisces. Right now, as I'm speaking, there's, you know, actually into tomorrow especially. So Sunday is going to be a lot of Piscean energy. But this is for Monday and beyond. And so we're going to have the Sun, Mercury, Neptune, Venus, and also Chiron. You know, Chiron's been in Aries or in Pisces for a very long time. It moves into Aries in April. And so, you know, that's going to be a thing as well. So we're dealing with the end degrees of Chiron. And I actually did an interview with my teacher, Robert Phoenix, that should be posted on Thursday on Astrolog's channel about Chiron in Aries and the global implications of that. And he's going to be doing actually a webinar about that as well. So you might want to check that out and hop on over to that channel on Thursday. But in the meantime, we're talking about this week and what's going on. All right, and so for Aries people, there's a lot of energy that's pulling you really deeply inward. It's all stacked up in your 12th house, and so you can have very dreamy, very beautiful connections within your partnerships. You might want to sort of take time out away from the world with your close friends or your romantic partners. This is going to be a really important time to seek solitude, seclusion, time for spiritual exploration, contemplation, creativity. This can also bring up energies surrounding, you know, 12th house sorts of institutions like hospitals, prisons, brothels are one of those too. What else is there? You know, monasteries, ashrams, spiritual retreat. These types of things can come up throughout this time period, but for the most part, it's going to be in a positive way, right? So, maybe it's something like you get to go on a retreat and you end up at like a monastery somewhere across the world or something like that, or you start planning for something like that because you feel the pull to seek more solitude. And again, this is a really nice time to do things that are very spiritual, very creative, very connected in partnership with people, but where you're kind of secluded in partnership, right? And this is a very deep, very dreamy energy. Your dreams can be enhanced. You can get more messages, downloads, inspiration through meditation and through these sort of psychic impressions that come in. And so just pay very, very close attention to what's going on behind the scenes below the surface right now. And you really might find that you feel like you need to take time away from the world. There is going to be some very practical, grounded energy that sort of pulls you out of all this mystical, Neptunian, foggy, energy that's coming from your work and your career, because right now you have Saturn transiting your 10th house of career. So you're going to be working really hard toward your career goals for the next 2.5 years. And, the Mercury in Pisces is actually going to be in a really nice sextile with Saturn. So you can take some of your creative inspiration. You can take the inspiration you get when you take solitude, when you spend time out, inspiration through dreams, inspiration through, meditation, those types of things that we just talked about can enhance your ability to do the work that you want to do out in the world. And so you can have these ideas, these inspirations that come in, and you can utilize them toward career projects and your career goals. And so merging your career with your creativity can be something that can be very beneficial for you this week. And taking time out will also enhance your ability to really do the diligent hard work that you need to do in order to create these long-term lasting changes and to create what you want to create for yourself and what you're building over these next 2.5 years in your career. So taking time out this week, making sure that you're having some space, that's going to be very, very important. And the moon in Taurus, which I really like, that's happening on Tuesday and Wednesday in particular, it's going to be in your second house. And so that means that if you're trying to initiate something that involves like creating finances for yourself, this could be a time when you could really start to do that. So focusing on finances, focusing on building a stable platform for yourself in that way. All right. For Taurus and for Taurus rising, this is all happening in your 11th house. And so Taurus rising people tend to attract, even though they're very grounded and very, realistic and of the earth and all of that, Taurus rising people do tend to attract very Neptunian sorts of friendships, where you attract people that are very spiritual, very watery, very woo-woo, very floaty, very creative. And also you can attract people that sort of that deceive you because you can't see them very clearly. You always want to see your friends through that lens of love and compassion. And so, that's where your rose-colored glasses come on and where you can't quite see people as clearly as you might want to. So you get these wishy-washy friendships that sort of float in and float out. They're not very grounded. But right now, your friendships can actually take on, a more beautiful, loving nature. You can come back into balance and equilibrium in your close friendships and your social networks. You can actually have money that sort of flows in this way that's very almost like it's like a mystical sort of bizarre happening where, money can just float in from the projects that you completed in your 10th house of career at this time period. Or, you can have some sort of benefit that comes through your partnerships, your friendships, your social networks at this time. There's going to be a lot of energy, a lot of communication coming in from your friends this week. So you're going to be getting a lot of text messages, emails, phone calls. This could also be a time when you start planning some sort of either higher educational pursuit or some sort of travel or adventure or something where you're learning through experience, and you could be planning it within your friendships. So you might take your friends, in a group on some sort of trip later on down the line. That would be something that you could utilize this energy for as well, in a very grounded, very practical way. But thinking about ways that you can, within your social networks, you can enhance and expand your mind. That would be, a really nice utilization of this energy as well. Okay. For Gemini and for Gemini rising, this stellium is happening in your 10th house of career. And so this is a time when you're going to be very focused on your career, your public reputation, what you're doing for your job. Creative projects, when it comes to your work, can be enhanced very, very greatly at this time. Anything that's going to make things more beautiful, more aesthetically pleasing. This is a time when you can very easily flow back into balance when it comes to your career. Especially if you're doing some sort of a career endeavor that's more mystical, more spiritual, or more creative. This is also a time period where you're going to be getting a lot of phone calls, text messages and emails regarding, work stuff, work projects. Your reputation can be enhanced, right? So you can get some sort of recognition for success, but your mind, your focus, not just for this week even, but for the next several weeks, is going to be on your career and creating and establishing a good name for yourself, or, completing some sort of good project. And this is a time when you can come into some sort of partnership in your career, or money can come in through a project or through a career endeavor. And so these are the types of things that can come up for you this week. It's a lot of really good energy, good manifestation energy for your career, and whatever it is that you want to do out there in the world. For Cancer and for Cancer rising, this is all happening in your 9th house. And so Pisces in the 9th house, with all of these, with this stellium of planets here, you're going to be focusing on your beliefs, right? Your philosophies about the world, religion, spirituality, learning new philosophies, higher education and higher educational pursuits can come up. And you might be thinking about, planning to take on some sort of new educational program. Maybe you're thinking about teaching or finding a new teacher, or this could be, energy that's really, really good for, again, going on some sort of spiritual retreat where you're traveling, but you're doing so as like a spiritual seeker, or as someone who's seeking an experience where you can learn more about different cultures, different philosophies, and different religious belief systems, different values in that way. Also a trip to the ocean, that would be really nice too, if you are able to do something like that. This is also a time when you can come into a partnership with somebody who can come into your life sort of unexpectedly in a way that's sort of very strange, unusual, fated, sort of a weird energy, but it comes from someone who's overseas. So you can link up and come into partnership with people who are overseas, if be that a friendship, a business partnership, some sort of, relationship where it's like a teacher relationship, a teacher-student relationship, or, romantic relationships can come up too. But you can make connections with people overseas this week in particular, and it can come about in a way that's sort of unusual. But the energy for the next couple of weeks in general, you're going to be thinking more about travel, about higher education, higher pursuits. You're going to be sort of delving deeper into your beliefs and your philosophies about life. For Leo and Leo rising, this energy is happening in your 8th house. And so this is a very deep sort of secretive house. It could bring up sort of confusion surrounding joint finances, joint resources, debt, other people's money that you get through inheritance, through taxes, those types of things can come up. But you could manifest money through that too, right? Because when we talk about Neptune, we are talking about a manifestation energy, and it's something subtle, right? Where maybe you're thinking about it beneath the surface, then it just shows up, and it's sort of bizarre the way that it showed up, exactly the way you were thinking about it, right? And so you can tap into your intuition in those areas. This is also a time for deepening connection and deepening your intimacy in connection and partnerships with other people. So that could be romantic and otherwise. So close friendships can deepen in intimacy. You can deepen your connection. You can get to know them on that deeper, more core level. Same thing with your romantic partnerships. They can feel much more dreamy, much more romantic, much more like intimate, where you're much more passionate in your relationships, but it's a dreamy, romantic sort of passion. It's not like, I gotta have you right now. It's more like it's a spiritual passion and a transcendent connection. And so the energy for the next, couple weeks, really, you're going to be focusing a lot on other people's money. So it could be, resources through marriage, a lot of energy around becoming more empowered and taking back your power in different areas. This 8th house energy usually can bring up sort of an unsettled feeling where, especially with Neptune there, and Neptune being triggered, Neptune's been there, but when Neptune's triggered there, it can feel like something like sort of ominous is coming up, and you're not quite sure what's happening. And so there could be a little feeling of like this unsettled feeling like something's about to happen, but it never does. That can be something that could be triggered, especially in respect to your relationships. But for the most part, a lot of really good, deep, intimate connections can come in. Virgo and Virgo rising. This is all happening in your 7th house of partnerships. And so this is a time when, new relationships can come up. You can sort of manifest, and I don't like using the word manifest. It's so like cliche, like overused, but you can, that's kind of what it is, right? So you can visualize, you can manifest, new partnerships, new love affairs, and it can be very dreamy. It can feel very magical, very mystical, very wonderful. And then, you end up having, again, you could end up having this moment of disillusionment where later on that partnership is not exactly what you thought it was. And this could be romantic partnerships, but this would be close friendships that come in. Any new relationships that come in, they fall under this realm. And you're already prone to sort of the rose-colored glasses when it comes to your relationships, and this is going to enhance that. So just be aware of that. But for the most part, this energy can make your romances much more dreamy, much more beautiful, magical. You can be much more compassionate in all of your relationships throughout this next couple of weeks, and especially this week. And you can feel like you're much more connected, like you're merging your soul with the soul of your partner, right? That's some sort of that energy that comes up. And so that's going to be a really nice energy for Virgo and for Virgo rising. So you can escape through relationships, right? Escaping from reality through relationships and through partnerships. Just don't escape too much. Okay, and so for Libra and Libra rising, this can bring really wonderful new partnerships when it comes to your work, right? Your business. It can bring new connections that enhance your ability to heal yourself, to deal with your health, nutrition, those types of things. Maybe you find a new doctor or someone to partner up with in your business or in your work. It's just a lot of really nice, dreamy, floaty energy when it comes to your day-to-day routines, your day-to-day experience, your day-to-day work life. Maybe you're taking a vacation from your work, and so your routines become a little bit more floaty, a little bit more where you're kind of in harmony and going with the flow, and you don't have to work quite as hard or focus so much on the tangible and the physical. And it's going to be a time when you're going to want to sort of take a little break from reality, right? And you can do that through partnership with other people. I think the partnerships that you do engage in might be more work related than anything else, but it can be a really good time for that. And with Mercury coming into your 6th house, you're going to be thinking a lot more about your health, about your work and your daily routines, and establishing better routines for yourself. For Scorpio and Scorpio rising, this is going to be happening in your 5th house. So this is another really dreamy romantic energy where you can have a love affair or a fling or a romance or a crush on someone that comes in, and it feels like magical, like you're supposed to, meet this person, and it's all loving and compassionate. And this is another area where it could fall prey to, disillusionment, where you saw things through these lenses of, what you wanted to see instead of for what they were. So just kind of be cautious if you do come into a new relationship. It doesn't mean that it's going to be a bad relationship or that it won't last, but this is probably going to be more of a love affair. It's probably going to be something where it feels really good in the moment for a short period of time. 5th house usually is that. It's like boyfriend, girlfriend relationships. It's not always long-term. Long-term relationships and committed relationships are more like the 7th house. But, this can also enhance your creativity, right? Because the 5th house is the house of creative self-expression. So you can be inspired to create something new, to, do something that's a little bit more intuitive, creative with your time, with your energy. And so this is and you can create something in partnership with other people. So pairing up with people to do something creative, like a creative project, can be very beneficial to you at this time. But your mind is going to be much more creative, and you're going to be thinking much more creatively throughout this time period. For Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, this is going to be in your 4th house. And so this is going to make your home, you're going to want to escape into your home and your family relationships. And you're going to want to sort of, get away from the world a little bit, spend more time, focusing on your family, focusing on that realm, as opposed to, being out there in the world working really hard. So this is going to be a time to take it easy, relax, spend time, in partnership, spend time with your family, spend time at home. You're going to come back into better balance and equilibrium in your home. And if there's something you want to manifest in terms of like changing your home and your family situation, you can start thinking and visualizing, and, you'll be able to plan it more creatively, right? Because Mercury is going to be in your 4th house. So you're going to be thinking about these types of things anyway. And with, Venus and Neptune coming into that conjunction, you can come back into equilibrium, but you can plan and manifest something. It could even be you and like a partnership with a family member where you're visualizing and thinking and creating what comes next, right? And so a lot of energy around the home and family, that's going to be the focal point for you over these next couple of weeks, but especially this week, it's going to be, and it'll be really nice. You'll be able to relax. This is, where Venus is, you get to enjoy more pleasure. You get to experience more pleasure. So being at home is going to feel nicer, and you're going to be able to just relax, kick back, enjoy yourself a little bit more. For Capricorn and Capricorn rising, this is happening in your third house. And so, Neptune in the third house, which has been going on for you for a while, can make communication a little confusing. But you have Mercury there now, so that's going to help. So you're going to be able to communicate your thoughts more effectively. You're going to be able to be a little bit more discerning in that way. And so really interesting, sort of unusual communications can come in this week that, are very loving, very compassionate. You're going to be able to think more compassionately, more lovingly. You're going to come back into balance when it comes to, communication, your day-to-day routines, your day-to-day experiences, and also, relationships with siblings, community members, long distance, or not long distance, sorry, family members, community members, extended family, siblings, things like, sorry, I'm drawing a blank here, cousins. That's what I was trying to say. Cousins and extended family members like aunts, uncles, those types of things. Those relationships can come back into balance and be enhanced through this process. And also your relationship with your neighbors and the people who surround you in your immediate environment, that can be enhanced through this energy. With Mercury in your third house, you're going to have a lot more communication coming in. And those communications can still be a little bit confusing, right? Because Mercury will come into conjunction with Neptune. So you can have some very confusing communication where you're not able to quite understand what's going on or make a decision. And so if that's the case over the weekend, just wait it out. You'll feel a little bit more clear after that point. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, a lot of energy around resources, money, the way that you create money. There can be some confusion around that, but also money can just sort of come in. When you have Neptune in the second house and that conjunction with Venus, which is, rules money, finances, those types of things, money can just sort of show up when you need it throughout this time period. So, if you think it might just come. And this is a time when money can sort of flow in. It's also a time when money just sort of flows through your fingers too, and it leaves just as easy as it comes, but it's always there when you need it. And so that's part of the energy that's coming about right now. But there's going to be a lot of communication, a lot of talking about money and finances, and a lot of focus on how you're going to be creating resources for yourself over this next week especially, but even into the next couple of weeks. And for Pisces and Pisces rising, this is all in your first house. And so you have this really beautiful, dreamy Neptunian energy that's coming in, especially if you have your ascendant or your sun around, 13 degrees. So I would say, 12 to 14 degrees in particular, but I would give it even more than that. Let's say 11 to 15 degrees. In the sign of Pisces, you're going to be really, really feeling this dreamy, watery, beautiful energy where you're going to feel much more in tune and in flow, and you're going to feel much more in balance and in harmony, and you'll feel much more charismatic, more beautiful. You can enhance your appearance during this time, and so doing something like having a makeover or getting a new wardrobe, getting a new haircut. Although with Neptune there, you might want to be certain of what you're doing because you might have this idealistic view of how it's going to turn out, right? And then a couple weeks you might not like it. But you can make changes that enhance your beauty, that enhance your physical appearance, that enhance your sense of self-worth and self-esteem. And people are going to be more drawn to you at this time. You're going to feel more charismatic and more likable, more lovable. And there's a lot of energy on the Pisces sign right now, right? There's a lot of energy in Pisces, so the spotlight is on you. So whatever it is that you want to do, you're going to be thinking more about acting on your own self-interest, acting on your own impulses, doing things that serve you. And so self-care is going to be, at the forefront at this time as well. So taking care of yourself and doing the things that you love to do. And yeah, so that's Pisces and Pisces rising. So that was all of the signs. So I hope you enjoyed this video and this reading. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below and I'll do my best to answer. And of course, as always, you can book a reading with me at the link in the description below. I offer a whole bunch of new readings right now. I just added, specific readings for career, for romance, for, couples. I added specific different transit readings and things like that. So, if you want to jump down there and just see what I'm offering, I also do single question readings for only $29. So if you have a specific question that you want answered, I'll give you, a pretty in-depth answer in a video. So all of those are available at the link below, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.